Hey everyone, it's Jenny at JC Cards. I hope you're having a wonderful day. Today I'm going to be using the new Italian Adventure Wow Embossing Trio, which is a trio of embossing glitters that just was released today, February. And I'm going to give you a close-up look at them first. I'll be using two of these to create my cards today. This first one is Amalfi. It's gorgeous. It's blues and pinks with glitter. This is Capri. It's a green with gold glitter in it. And then the last one is Sorrento, which is a beautiful blue colour with lots of pretty silvery gold flecks in it. So I'm going to be using Amalfi and Capri today. And I'm going to be dry embossing glitter cardstock that I've made with the embossing glitters. So to make my backgrounds, I've got a panel, an A2 size panel of Wow embossing cardstock, and I'm inking it up with my embossing ink just by swiping a good juicy pad all over that cardstock, and I do have some scratch paper just underneath it just to stop my embossing ink getting all over my craft mat. And then I'm liberally sprinkling, this first colour is Capri, all over that panel, making sure I catch it in a coffee filter. And embossing glitter does have a tendency to fly away a little bit more than the embossing powder itself. And I like to heat it from behind. I'm using setting 2 with my heat tool. And once I've started to get it hot, I can bring the heat tool to the front. And that is just one layer. And look how shiny it is in the light. It's absolutely gorgeous. Now to create my backgrounds, I'm using 3D embossing folders, which work awesome on embossed backgrounds, and I prefer to emboss the panel first and then run it through my dry embossing folder. These are by We Are Memory Keepers. This is the basket weave. I think they might have been discontinued, although you can get them in a few places still if you look on the internet. And then I'm creating both my backgrounds first. So this is Amalfi. I did one layer here, and then I did go back in, re-ink it up and add another layer just to get it a little bit thicker. But look how cool that is with the pink against that glitter. It's gorgeous. And I'm going to run it through my embossing machine again with a dry embossing folder. This is also by We Are Memory Keepers. They're 3D embossing folders. I find these work better than 2D folders. You just get much more dimension, which works better with the embossing glitter blends. And then I'm going to mount both my backgrounds onto a white card base. Now to create the focal point of my card, I wanted to keep it pretty simple. I'm using this VASE fillers and stamp set from Altenew. Inking it up in my Misty, you'll see why in a minute. I'm using a green colour. This is FIREFLY Crisp Dye ink from Altenew, which coordinated well with the Capri embossing powder. And then I've stamped it twice with that FIREFLY ink, and then I'm coming back in with my embossing ink pad, and I've lightly tapped it over the pad and then just dabbed off some with my fingers. And what I'm trying to do is get, it's not quite an ombre look, it's more like a distressed look. I'm using Wow Gold Metallic Sparkle embossing powder here, and then heating up, you'll see that ink peeping through with the gold sparkle over the top. And then there's a coordinating die set. I'm going to run that through my die cutting machine and pop that focal image up onto the front of my embossing folder background. And then to finish off, I'm using some of these sentiments from Tailored Expressions. These are the sentiment strips. This one says, "Welcome to the neighborhood." I've cut it into 2, and it's heat embossed with Wow Metallic Rich Pale Gold embossing powder in the super fine. And then I sprinkled a few gold confetti sequins from Honeybee Stamps. Now to finish my second one, I'm using this triangle die from Erin Lee Creative, and I've die cut it twice from a £110 Neenah Solar White cardstock. I'm going to leave one of them plain, and then on the other one I'm going to dab it into my embossing ink just to get it nice and sticky. And then I'm going to heat emboss it, and sometimes I like to heat emboss after I've die cut. That gives you more of a raised and rounded edged look. And I thought that that would work really well with this die. It's very intricate, and I love the way the embossing powder kind of drips down onto it. You'll see, particularly with the metallic silver, it's almost like liquid metal. And for these fine die cuts, I like to hold them down just with my pokey tool to stop them blowing off while I heat emboss. And that's metallic silver that I'm using on this one. to arrange them on the front of my panel. These are so intricate, they're actually quite hard to adhere down. So I'm going to use my sentiment strip to act as an anchor. So I have a sentiment embossed by Taylor's Expressions, embossed in metallic silver on black cardstock. I've trimmed it in two, and then I have a Dries foam strip on the back of each. I'm adding it onto the two die cuts just where I want them, and then I'm going to flip it over and add another strip, two strips on the back, and that way those two die cuts are kind of captured and sandwiched between the foam strips. I can then pop it onto the front of my background, and it gives a lot of dimension with very little adhesive. I just love this sentiment. Isn't that true? That finishes it from me today. I hope you enjoyed it. There's a couple of other videos you might enjoy I've linked here that feature embossing powders. And don't forget to go and subscribe to the Wow Embossing Powder YouTube, which I've also linked below. There's tons of other videos from other fantastic YouTubers over there. Have an awesome day. Bye.